Today, we are going to talk about everything you need to know if your partner has relationship OCD. This is actually part two of an episode we recently did with Alex Dima, who is somebody who works in my practice and I adore. And we wanted to now make an episode just for the partners. So often in our practice, we are treating the person with relationship OCD, but on the other side of that relationship, is someone who's also struggling, wants to do their best, wants to be a loving partner, but is also really in a lot of pain because the relationship OCD overflows onto them. So, welcome, Alex. This is such a valuable conversation.
Thank you so much for having me back. I love having these conversations with you and helping other people in the process. So I'm super excited to jump in.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like the partner of people with relationship OCD need their own little track of resources and skills and strategies to use. So, that's what we're here to do.
Absolutely. There's so many resources for people with OCD, right? And I feel like it's just as important for partners, family members to have those same resources to really know how to help.
Yes. Well, and that's interesting. We'll hit that right on the head is if the partner doesn't have the right resources, it can really slow down the treatment of the person
Yes,
with relationship OCD and impact their relationship.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have created a little toolkit between the two of us to sort of really start off with giving you a specific set of skills and tools that you will want to practice if you are the partner of someone with relationship OCD. Now, this is true for all people with OCD and partners of people with OCD, but we wanted to make this specifically for relationship OCD. Why is it so important that we speak directly to the folks with relationship OCD?
Yes. Very important because relationship OCD is literally centered on your partner, right? And so while it is important with every theme that family members are educated, with this one in particular, it can feel incredibly personal to the partner, right? And we want to make sure that the partner has all the resources they have in order to not kind of bring their own discomfort and frustration into that and exacerbate the issue. Way easier said than done, but that's why we're here to get into it.
Great. Okay. So we have 5 tools in the toolkit. Do we and the first one is the big reframe. So let's start with that. Like, so number 1, we need to have a big reframe. What is the big reframe?
Yes, the big reframe, plain and simple, is just it is not about speaking to the partner. It is not about you. It is not you that they are talking to as much as it's the OCD, right? So whenever they're frustrated about something, as easy as it feels to take it personally, it's really about the OCD. And OCD attacks the things that we care about most. So if that's helpful for you to think about it in that way, right? They're not coming at you. They just don't know how to kind of get the certainty that they need without bringing you into it.
Yeah. So let's give some examples of that. So I'll give a couple that I often see is let's say someone has relationship OCD and they're saying, I'm not sure that I love this person. I'm not sure they're the one. Now,
Yeah.
we understand that as a part of their OCD, but that might really hurt
Yeah.
for the loved one, because you
Right.
might be all in. Let's say you're the partner, you're like, "I'm all in," like, and we get along great, we're doing great, everything's good, but then you have these waves where you tell me you're having anxiety, you don't know if this is the one, and that might hurt and feel like it's very personal, and I think what you're saying is it doesn't necessarily mean it's personal.
Yes, exactly. And of course, like anybody hearing that would take it personally, right? I think even as an OCD therapist, if I heard that, I would still have a hard time not taking it personally, right? And I understand all of this. So it's the reminder that I want to make sure everyone has is that your partner's intrusive thoughts aren't an accurate reflection of you as a person, as your value, as your accurate reflection of your connection, right? Of your worth, of your physical, emotional attractiveness, all the things, right? It is an intrusive thought at the end of the day, right? So if we can work on separating those, that is where we will see progress.
Yeah. Now, we also talk a lot in supervision, us and the team, about retroactive jealousy, which is often that the person with OCD or retroactive jealousy is upset or struggling with something that the partner has done in a previous relationship. Would you still apply this big reframe to that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That one can be really tricky because partners or the person struggling with retroactive jealousy is focusing on usually real events, right, that have happened in the past. And so it can be really tempting to engage with them and say, "No, I love you," or reassure, "That didn't mean anything to me." But all that's doing is reinforcing the cycle where you're going to treat it as if it's the same thing. Like those obsessions about past partners, past situations, or events, those are just as much intrusive thoughts, right, as what if I'm not attracted or what if I don't love my partner? It just feels less like obvious to treat them that way because we're talking about real events. And that's where people can get really stuck.
Yeah. And I think the main thing here to the partner, let's just get like hold you by the shoulders and say, like, this is hard. This is hard to navigate. What we're trying to do with this big reframe is to really just help you to be able to step back and to practice the skill of not personalizing what OCD is bringing to the table. Because in relationship OCD, we want, instead of it being the person with relationship and OCD against you and everybody, it wants to be you and your partner against OCD together in a joint. Like, we are not giving, just like for the person who has OCD, we're going to practice not treating thoughts like facts. We're going to practice not engaging in them and trying to solve them. And that goes for the partner as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It is you two against the OCD. I love that. It's such a, I want to emphasize that because it's so important to remember.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes when a partner, and we encourage this, is if somebody has OCD, we encourage the partners to come in so we can
Yes.
educate them. And sometimes, if there is, and sometimes there is a lot of conflict because of how much pain OCD is causing, I always sort of think it's interesting when I sit in my therapist chair and one partner sits there and another partner sits on the other side of the room. And I'm always like, no, no, no. What, you guys going to sit over there because I want you to get the imagery that you guys are the team and it's against the
Yes.
OCD, or it's you guys are a team. It's sort of like football. There's one team and the other team, and who wins. So I
Yeah.
want you guys to even like sit next to each other and attack this like you're the team.
Yes.
One thing I do in my family, and you guys don't need to do this, but above our front entry inside, we had a wood plaque made that says Team Quinlan, right? And we do that. I've always done that because I always have to remind myself whatever's happening in this family, it's our team versus the problem. It's not that we're going to make one person in the family be the problem. And I love that. It's helpful for me to sort
Love
of
that.
have the sign above just to remember that. So again, the team is you and the partner, not your partner and OCD.
Yes. 100%.
Okay. Toolkit number 2 is to reduce accommodation. Do you want to explain to folks what accommodation means and
Yes.
why it's so important?
Yes. So accommodation means essentially when your partner is engaging in compulsions to get relief or, get away from uncertainty, right? You are then encouraging that on accident, right? So common accommodations, repeated reassurance, right? Like that's one of the biggest ones when we're talking about these, relationship OCD, retroactive jealousy, I love you, no, whatever you need to say to reassure them. That is the most common. And if you don't know that that's what you're doing, it's very easy to do it because that feels like the most natural thing to do to try to help reduce their anxiety. So essentially, it's anything that is encouraging them to continue to seek out reassurance, seek out ways to get away from the discomfort, all of that. Another common one, sharing unnecessary details, giving them too much information to try and confess, to make it go away, right? Withholding parts of your past, anything that just kind of pausing and thinking, am I doing this right now to reduce my partner's anxiety? That's likely an accommodation.
Yeah, and it can be so subtle too.
So subtle. Yeah.
I've had clients who the partner of somebody with relationship OCD who will say, one day he was spiraling and he kind of just like let out that, my nose bothers him. They're not trying to hurt their partner, they're just struggling. And so then the partner starts to consider like, should I get a nose job? Like maybe I'll hide my nose, maybe I'll go get makeup to sort of hide certain aspects of my nose or my hair or my butt or whatever. Doing like and so they start to then accommodate by changing their own behaviors or the way they look, changing their behaviors. So, oh, my partner gets triggered when I go to the beach, so I'm going to not go to the beach, right? We want to identify that as an accommodation compulsion, and you might feel like you're doing it out of love for your partner to not trigger them. I know we don't want our partners to be in pain, but in this case, it actually is making the OCD worse.
Yes, absolutely. Anything, I'm so glad you brought all those examples up because those are big ones too that are so subtle, right? Where it's like anything you're doing that's altering your behavior to help them avoid discomfort or avoid triggers, that's a very clear accommodation. And it only feeds the cycle and makes these thoughts feel like they mean something, right? Or they're important.
Yeah, agreed. Excellent. All right, number 3 is self-compassion and compassion for the person with OCD.
Yes. And this one I think is something that I tell all my clients, like, we all need to work on this.
Yeah.
Every human being on the planet, right? I think we can be our biggest critics. And with OCD, there is almost always a large piece that involves self criticism, right? And that only makes it so much harder. And for the partner as well, it can become easy to criticize yourself. Like, what am I doing wrong? Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this, right? If I wasn't with this person in the past, then none of this would be happening, right? And all those things, you're just criticizing yourself and attempting to establish control over something that you have no control over, right? And you can't change. So self compassion is actually pretty simple at its core, right? Sometimes it's just acknowledging, like, this is really hard. This sucks. I wish this wasn't happening, but it is. And I know that we can both sit in this discomfort together and we're in
Yeah.
this together.
Yeah.
And not always for the partner, right? I am not always going to say the perfect thing. That's okay. I am not capable of solving or fixing this OCD, and my partner's, progress and their healing isn't dependent on me doing everything perfectly,
Yeah.
right? And yeah.
I have such a soft spot for the partners of people with relationship OCD. And I'll share with you a vulnerability that I have is I wasn't a particularly secure person when I met my husband. If he was someone who had relationship OCD, that would have set my like anxious attachment on fire. Like
Yeah.
I would have questioned everything about myself. I would have thought it
Oh
meant
my God, yeah.
something about me. I would have like, yes, this is a fact. Because I would have come into the relationship already believing, like, I'm not really that lovable. I'm not
Mhm.
that special. Why would anyone really choose me over the every million people? Like, so
Yeah.
if you're coming into the relationship and your partner has relationship OCD and you have these insecurities already, it's going to make it hard. And that's going to
Yeah.
make it so that you have to practice self compassion even more
Yeah.
than, and no, a relationship where OCD is not involved.
Oh my God, 100%. And maybe there is, I have not met anybody that has gone to any relationship 100%
Mm,
secure
yeah.
themselves, right? We are human beings. Something like this, oh my gosh, yeah, I would feel the exact same way as you,
Yeah.
Kimberly. Like, I feel blessed that I didn't have to deal with
Yeah.
that, right? And
Yeah.
just being so honest. So we say those things to say, like, we feel you, we know the struggle because we
Yeah.
work with clients day in and day out that deal with these things. And so we
Yeah.
know how painful it can be to be on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say in regards to self-compassion for the partner is when the partner has relationship OCD, it's really easy to be like, "This guy's a jerk," or "This girl's a jerk." Or
Yes.
you're telling your friends, like my partner, we were getting along, all of a sudden he says he's not so sure and he's freaking out, and your instinct would be like, "What who? Who is this person? Like, what a
Mhm.
jerk." But we have to have compassion for them because 'cause they're struggling too, right? This is
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
so painful for both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you have no information about what is actually happening, right, as somebody with OCD, those may be the only tools you have, right, to
Yeah.
express what's going on and to ask for help. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, yes, it's being done in not super healthy ways, but the majority of the time, but the clients with OCD do not mean any harm. They just don't know any other way to express it, right?
Yep. And manage it, absolutely. And
Yep.
it's yeah, absolutely. All right, number 4, learn how to manage your emotions, such as uncertainty, shame, guilt, or anger. Let's talk about that.
I mean, this one is something that I think is a lifelong practice, right?
Yeah.
Managing our own emotions. It can be incredibly difficult. I know that as a therapist, right, I even have a long way. I'll be doing that forever, right?
Yeah.
But I think what's an important reminder that we want to make sure partners have is that you also are responsible for your own regulation. And
Mm.
we strongly encourage, as we've said, anybody that's dealing with this on the other side to find a therapist on your own, not your partner's therapist. Like, it can be helpful to join those sessions sometimes, but also to have your own individual outlet is super important because we need to learn those regulation tools so that when our partner is struggling, we're not putting it on them to make us feel better, and we're able to sit in our own discomfort and manage our own uncertainty. And also, if you are having a difficult time where things are heightened and you're both very dysregulated and trying to work through something, this is your permission right now and actually your like a request to step away,
Your
right?
assigned homework.
Yes, exactly. Your assigned homework. Like, please, it's okay to say, you know what? I don't have the tools to help you right now. I'm feeling a little dysregulated, whatever it may be. Let me take a break. Let's revisit this, right? That is more than okay. And we prefer that because there's no way you're going to make any progress when you're both at a 10,
Yeah.
right? We have to regulate ourselves before we can work through some of these really difficult concepts.
Man, like, why I was just telling you before the recording, like, here I am on a Saturday afternoon learning, uh, Roman mythology with my daughter. Like, what is happening? But yet we don't teach to kids how to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such a life skill, right? Like, it's
Yes.
so important, and it sucks because we weren't taught how to manage our emotion, and so I think what we're really talking about here is make it your curriculum
Mhm.
to learn how to have big emotions,
Yeah.
shame, guilt, uncertainty, anger,
Yeah.
sadness, like whatever they might be. And I think your work as the partner is being able to regulate your emotions so that you can healthfully navigate when your partner's struggling. That's like instead of accommodating, managing
Yes.
your own emotions is the best way to respond.
Absolutely,
Mm.
100%. And acknowledging that, like, I think sometimes it can feel really validating for the partner with OCD too, for to hear their partner say like, "Yeah, I'm in pain too. I'm struggling. This really sucks. I see you're in pain," right? To
Yeah.
actually normalize all the difficult emotions that come with this because you're right,
Yeah.
Kimberly, right? A lot of us were not taught how to help healthfully express those emotions, and we were taught like, "Ooh, emotions are bad," or push them
Yeah.
down, right? And I think over time we're making progress with that, but it's still something that is unfortunately feels taboo to be honest about your emotions. And so we encourage you to, nurture those and talk about those and express those.
Yeah. And so the last point before we go into rapid fire on as many questions as we can get through, because there's so many questions that we have. What the last skill that we have here is it's okay to get additional help. And I
Yes.
would say that it's okay for you as the partner to get your own therapy. It's also okay for you both to have couples therapy while your partner goes through exposure and response prevention treatment with a specialist. As somebody who's done a lot of couples therapy, going to a couples therapist does not mean your relationship is falling apart. I think it's like so helpful. Like it's
Mhm.
literally taught me so much
Yes.
and given a safe place for us to talk about really, really hard things. So the last point is to get help. Do you have any additional feedback you
Yes.
want to add?
I have a couple things. One last reminder, but I also want to just say something to your point about couples therapy because with the couples that I have seen as a therapist, this always comes up of this like taboo. Oh, is it bad that we're in therapy? Does this mean this is like the last straw? We're doomed. Or if we were meant to be, if we were the right couple, we wouldn't have to go to therapy. And I think that is just total BS. I think it shows how much you care about the relationship that you are choosing to show up in that way because it is the most vulnerable thing you can do as a couple, right? So many things come up. And I think no matter how strong the relationship is, I think literally every single couple can benefit from that.
Yeah.
So try to like lose that shame about it, right? There is nothing wrong with it and it can only help. That is one of the things I wanted to say. And then just lastly, a reminder, all the things that Kimberly said, yes, don't be afraid to get your own help. But your job ultimately, right, isn't to cure the OCD, as we've said. It is just to
Mm,
consistently respond to your partner in ways that will support their recovery, but while also making sure that you're supporting yourself and your own needs, right? You shouldn't have to neglect your own needs just because your partner is dealing with this, right?
yeah.
So striking that balance.
Yeah, and you're good to bring that up because I do think sometimes the partner becomes the therapist too. As a therapist, and I'm sure you're the same, it's not really that healthy to be the
No.
therapist for your partner, whether you are a licensed therapist or not. So, like,
Right.
feeling like you have to do all the therapy work, get your own help so that you can set appropriate boundaries, so that you're not taking on sort of that role of caretaker. I mean, yeah, we do have to caretake our partners sometimes, but it can build a lot of resent if that's what you feel like you're doing. You're
Yes.
pulling more weight than is necessary. So, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yay.
let's rapid fire some questions. We have a lot, so we'll see how much we can get done. Okay, so someone said, "Why can they seem loving one day and then they're distance the next? How might I handle that?"
That one is so hard because it is very common, right? And that inconsistency can feel so painful and it can feel hard not to think that it's about you, right? Or that you did something wrong, speaking to the partner. When OCD becomes activated, right? Or when there are triggers or we're stuck in a spiral, it's very exhausting, right? And when, especially for someone that hasn't really gone through treatment, even someone in treatment, it's very exhausting to sift through that and try to manage it and respond in the ways that you are supposed to respond. And so there isn't a whole lot left for the partner in those moments. And that is not personal, right? It is just how it goes. And so OCD is such a beast in that way because you can have like a week, 2 weeks where you're just the partner's doing great and there aren't really any triggers that come up. And then there may not even be a trigger, but one intrusive thought decides to hit and it's an extra sticky one and your partner gets stuck in that and they become withdrawn because they're exhausted trying to deal with it. So I would just work to again manage your own emotions and give them the space that they need and remind them that you're there without accommodating, but hey, I know this is really hard. I'm here for you. We got this. I know you're capable of sitting in this uncertainty. I'm here to sit in it with you.
Yes. Yes, so true. This one is so hard for me. I remember early in my marriage, like, my husband would have, like he just needs a lot of alone time, and I would be like, "This is
Yeah.
not good. This is re" I would be catastrophic, like, "This is
Right.
the begin like, this is bad. We're in big trouble," like, and I would get really anxious, and so I remember even a couples therapist being like, "You need to be able to ride the wave when he needs some space,"
Yeah.
or if like, in this case, if the person's hot and cold and being like, "Okay, I'm gonna take care of myself now.
Yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
engaging in all of these anxious behaviors, I'm going, what can I do to soothe myself while we're in this peak and valley of the relationship?" So I think that's
Exactly.
relying on the skill of learning how to tolerate your own emotion and take care of yourself.
Yes, and alone time is healthy, there is nothing wrong with that, and people
Right.
everyone's different in how much they need to recharge, right? And so that is it's very much not personal,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with this.
Right. The next question is, are they intentionally hurting me?
Yes. This one is valid, right? Because it depending on the obsession, it can feel very hurtful what your
Mhm.
partner is saying to you. And most of the time, if OCD is what we are truly dealing with here, no. Like they are not intentionally hurting you, right? I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier. They're trying to get certainty, to get relief. And this is the way their brain is choosing to go about that because they haven't developed healthier skills to do so, right? So in the process, you are getting hurt, which we don't want to happen, right? But it may happen and that's okay. A reminder, if you are being actively hurt by your partner, you don't need to just sit there and take it. You can take the time for yourself too. And it's not your job to then make them feel better and fix that for them.
Yeah. That actually perfectly goes into, like, how can we set boundaries? Let's say the
Yeah.
partner is confessing and asking for reassurance. It can feel really difficult
Yeah.
to set a boundary with your partner.
Totally. It can feel so hard and it can feel like, I've had people ask me like, well, am I like neglecting their needs, if I'm setting a boundary? And it's actually the opposite. You're doing the opposite, right? But it can be hard not to feel guilty. But remember, healthy boundaries always support recovery, right? You're not neglecting your partner or your love for them. You're neglecting the OCD, which is what we want to starve it, right? So, for example, like a healthy boundary can sound like, I'm not going to answer this question again, right? I love you, but we're talking to your OCD right now. So I'm going to remove myself, right? I'm happy to sit here with you while the anxiety passes, but that's all I'm going to do. Just reminding your partner, like, okay, who are we talking to here? Is it you? Is the OCD? And again, I'm going to take a short break and I'm going to come back when we're calmer. Like, that's a super healthy boundary. So, also managing your own guilt about that, though, reminding yourself, like, you aren't neglecting them. This is actually what is necessary for both of you in recovery.
Yeah, and the relationship, it's healthy to set boundaries, it's healthy to stop engaging in their compulsions, so yes, you're doing the right thing. You already answered this, but I wanna see if you have any other answers. What should I say instead of offering reassurance? So I love you said, like, "I love you, but that's OCD," like, I also have clients sometimes will just say, "We're not gonna let OCD interfere in our relationship, it's team Quinlan or team Dima," or whatever it might be, like, "No." Or sometimes family members agree on like a keyword, right? Like there's a keyword you can use that is a sign that you're doing a compulsion, and so you're gonna use a keyword. What advice would you give other folks with this situation?
Yeah. So, I actually love the keyword. And I think, for people that appreciate incorporating humor into treatment and find it helpful, I think sometimes those like labeling it as something completely separate of you in a funny way, like, ooh, I think Fred might be here right now.
Yeah,
Like, let's just let him do his thing. Or like
yeah.
how whatever is you can like bring an inside joke of yours into it,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Try to like as much as this is the opposite of fun, if we learn how to have fun with it,
Yep.
takes away the power and helps us diffuse. So, if that is your style, I love that route. I love the route of like validating, like, I know this feels really hard. Like,
Mm,
I'm really sorry that I know you don't want to be dealing with this, but
yeah.
I know you and I know that you're strong and you're capable of handling this discomfort and riding that wave. I think it's okay to remind them, like, hey, this passes.
Yeah.
We've been here before.
Yeah.
It's a difficult emotion has passed. And I'm going to remind you, you're capable of tolerating
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah.
I can see how anxious you're feeling. I think I kind of said that already. Like, I see the anxiety. I'm here to sit with you and hold your hand while you're anxious. But it's also about finding what works for you too, in
Mm,
terms of responses. And it can be kind of a creative thing in a
yeah.
way, right? And figuring out, what resonates with you. And you will learn as you go too. Again, this brings me back to the important reminder of the day. You are never going to have the perfect thing to say all the time, right?
Yes.
And that's not your job. It is okay if you accidentally reassure a little bit once, right? Like, we're not going for perfection. We're just trying
No.
to get closer and closer to our goal every day,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
perfection is not a thing.
I like what you kind of said there at the end because I think every relationship is different. What works for my relationship mightn't work for yours and
Yeah.
other people's. I also love the answer to this question, which is ask your partner what they want you to say when they're coming for
Yeah.
reassurance. So you could go to your partner and say, "Listen, I'm making a commitment to not engaging in OCD. I don't want OCD to grow into this relationship. If you came to me with a reassurance seeking question or a confession or something, what would be a safe thing for me to say to you that
Hmm.
would be helpful?" And then the partner gets to choose the language, and that
Yeah.
might be really healing for them to feel like they're a part of and they're not being, like, parented or disciplined by I think that collaboration is key.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, next question. My partner has retroactive jealousy. How do I handle this?
How can I handle this, right? Like, such a broad question. I specifically with retroactive jealousy, like that sort of subset of ROCD is can be incredibly painful for both parties, right? All of it can. But I really would recommend, if you can, right, to make sure that you have your own outlets and your own support too, and that you have somebody that's informed on the topic to help you figure out how to manage your own discomfort and your own emotions that come up with this, because it's really, really hard. I would just, again, like, resisting the urge to repeatedly kind of explain and justify and, overshare your past, indiscretion or whatever it is. It can be small things. Like, sometimes it's confusing, like, why is this even relevant to my partner? And your partner doesn't know the answer. It's just what OCD is choosing to obsess over, right? So really working on resisting the urge to do the thing that feels like the most intuitive thing in the moment, which is to, like, answer the questions and overshare to try and reassure. You're really just trying to do the opposite and get back to, what you guys enjoy doing as a couple, and, like, remembering that you can still go out and do something that you love doing together while still being uncomfortable, right? We don't have to let the discomfort keep us from living our lives.
Yeah. And you are key is find a clinician who understands retroactive jealousy because I've had clients where the partner of the person with retroactive jealousy goes to a therapist and the therapist, unbeknownst to them, and I'm sure their intentions were good, were like, this is wrong. This is like a bad, bad, bad situation. You need to leave. Now, of course, if your partner of any type is being abusive, saying unkind things, like, yes, absolutely. Like that is a hard line. There should be no abuse in a family. And if that's the case, doesn't matter what diagnosis they have, you need to make sure you're safe. But the person with retroactive jealousy, it's not that their personality, they're not a jerk. I mean, we can all be jerks sometimes. I don't want to make it out as if this is all black and white, but make sure that your clinician that you are seeking help with understands the condition.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's see. How do I know when we're stuck in an OCD conversation?
Yes. So there's some questions that you can kind of ask yourself. I think actually, number one, if you're wondering if you're stuck in an OCD conversation, the chances are you probably are, right?
Right, right.
I think trust that you actually know more than you feel in
Yeah,
these moments, that it probably, you know what it looks like, right?
yeah.
But I would say, have we talked about this before? Does my answer seem to help only temporarily? I think a big one is, am I, doing something to try and help my partner's anxiety or get rid of their discomfort, right? We want to encourage the things that create discomfort, right? Because that's how we learn that we can tolerate the discomfort, and then our thoughts lose their power. So, oop, I don't know. I'm not going to answer that, right? It's okay to bring on a little bit of discomfort. Like that's as much as we don't want to feel that, we have to be willing to feel that because that's how we move.
Yes, and you hit the nail on the head. Compulsions can be detected if it's they're needing something, their uncertainty to be taken away, that it's urgent or repetitive, or all three. And I think it's okay to ask your partner, because I do also know the partner with OCD gets upset because they're like, my partner says everything's my OCD, right? Even if I'm trying to discuss with you a normal relationship struggle. So it's okay to have a dialogue of like, is this OCD or not? Let's have a combo about it. If that feels judgmental, please know I'm not judging you. I'm just trying to tread very well here. So I think, again, it's ongoing conversations that is kind. Let me stress here, though, the conversations should be kind and respectful. We shouldn't be raising our voices. We shouldn't be using labeling words like jerk and bad and horrible. Like, we shouldn't be using swear words. Like, these are more basic communication rules that will save your relationship. So if you're really, really intense, take a moment, step away. Like you said, like, these are more basic rules, but they do help with relationship OCD because emotions can run high.
Majorly. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's really bang through a couple of last few questions. So what if my partner, the one with OCD, refuses treatment?
That is tricky. Again, that can be very painful and that you can feel very like helpless in those moments, right? I think you cannot force someone to recover. It has to come from them. And that is really hard because they may not always want to or see that for themselves or see that they need to or are willing to be uncomfortable. Like this work is really hard. We do get, a lot of people don't want to do it, right? I don't blame them. It's not fun. You're forced to confront the things that scare you the most, right? Emphasis on we can't force someone to do that, right? It's okay, for you to obviously encourage as much as you can from a place of love. But ultimately, if it's not getting there, like it's okay for you to also say, I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to help and do whatever you need to do for yourself to protect your own, peace. And if that means stepping away, I don't know. But I just say all of that to say you can't drive yourself crazy trying to get somebody else to go into treatment.
And then all you can do is, again, go back to the boundaries, right? So
Yes.
learn to set your own boundaries. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If my partner really loved me, this is a question, they wouldn't have these thoughts.
Yeah, so this is, very, very common misconception, and I know that we often are tempted to buy into, like, this idea of what love should look like and that it's rainbows and butterflies and, "Oh, it must not be the right person because if it was, then this wouldn't exist," right? And that is just, again, a bunch of BS, and, I think also that thought can be a mental compulsion for both sides, right? Of, like, trying to get your brain is trying to get you to engage and prove it wrong. And so as hard as it is, if you have that question come up, it's like, I guess we don't know right now. And that's okay, but I will also say that that is a common myth,
Yes.
in general.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, last question. And this one really brings it in is, but reassurance does help. So
Mm.
why should I stop?
Yes. So obviously, we see the reason people seek reassurance is because it often gives relief in the moment. But that relief is temporary. And every time we give reassurance, the partner gets the temporary relief, but you are on accident reinforcing that that thought is worth investigating and that thought is dangerous. And so we need an answer. Right. And so every time you do that, you're feeding this OCD or whatever you want to call it. You're feeding Fred, right? Going back to Fred. So we want to starve him. And we starve him by not doing that, right? And so yes, technically it works in the moment, but what is the real goal here, right? We want the goal to be choosing temporary discomfort to be able to have long-lasting results and impact.
Amazing. Okay. Is there anything you want to say as we kind of round this out? Is there anything you want if you could, again, if you could hold the shoulders of someone who is a partner of someone with relationship OCD, what would you tell them?
Just simply said, it's really hard. And I'm sorry that you're dealing with this because it's incredibly painful and incredibly difficult. But work on your own self compassion and the things that you are proud of and the reasons you are a great partner, right? And the things you love about your relationship, because those are the things that matter, right? Those are your values. Everything else is just OCD, anxiety, discomfort with uncertainty, all of those things, right? So at the end of the day, you are not responsible for fixing that. You are just responsible for responding in a way that starves the OCD as much as possible, setting healthy boundaries, taking care of yourself. And if this is a wonderful relationship, which I'm sure that it is, right? Outside of the OCD, don't let that get in the way of your happiness, right? It doesn't have to. So, but we are here for you and we know how hard it is and you are absolutely not alone. And that's why we make these resources to remind people they're not alone. Cause I think topics like these feel really taboo, feel really isolating. If you go to your friends that don't know what you're talking about, of course they're going to be like, oof, that's terrible. Get out. Right. And it's just so much more complicated than that. And so you aren't alone and there are resources and you got this.
Yeah. And all I would add, and this is more of me holding the shoulders of both partners. I know a lot of relationship OCD clients who go on to have very successful relationships. It doesn't mean you're doomed. It doesn't mean that this is you're never going to find someone without OCD taking the relationship down. That this is a treatable condition. And with the support of a loving partner who is obviously listening here, it can make the whole process so much better. So I'm just in awe of the folks actually on the ground doing the work. And as you said, we are here to support you. So the podcast, but also Alex in my private practice, myself, our team is there to help the partners and the folks with relationship OCDs because Alex is our ROCD queen over here.
I love that title.
Yeah.
And I love that you said that because, yes, just the fact that you are here listening to this right now means you're an amazing partner and that you care and that you are doing the right things, right? Putting in this effort to listen to this podcast and learn how to better yourself for the relationship. Like they are very lucky to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alex, for
Thank you.
being here. You're a rock star again. It's
You're
so
the best.
this was I have to give credit. Alex was the one who asked for this episode to be created to have a resource for partners. And we were absolutely like, heck yes, let's make sure we do it. Because we also wanted to have like this transcript to put into an
Yeah.
article to give to people so that they
Yes.
have the resources they need. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, of course. It's an honor and it's my pleasure. And I always love chatting with you. So I'll be back anytime you
Yeah,
want.
let's do it.
All
Thanks,
right.
Alex, and thank you everyone for being here.